Hello, everybody. This is Brian Ankney with AutoSuccess magazine. I appreciate you all taking the time to join us today. Today, we're going to talk about how to win in a flat market. Our guest today is Justin Byrd. He's the president of Team Velocity Marketing. A couple of things I want to go over before we get started is, first of all, if you haven't joined AutoSuccess webinars yet, it's a group we have on Facebook. Please just type in AutoSuccess webinars in the search. It'll bring it up, and you can become a member. There's a few benefits to the group. One, you can interact with our speakers and the AutoSuccess staff. You can suggest future topics or guests. But most importantly, you can interact with each other. Because most of these webinars that we do, they're not as simple as flipping a switch and wham, you're there. Most of them require multiple steps and sometimes multiple weeks or months or even years to accomplish the topics and the improvements that we share. And so what I invite you to do is to share your successes and failures with each other through AutoSuccess webinars, and hopefully we can all achieve our goals quicker working together. Now, the questions, we're going to hold all the questions during this webinar until the end. We will get to all the questions. I ask you, please type them in as we go, because that'll help me with a little context as to what topic was being discussed at the time. Also, it'll give us a nice list of really great questions as soon as the presentation ends. Now, how do you ask a question? Now, this depends on your device. If you're on a laptop, a tablet, or a desktop, it's very simple. There's a bar that runs down the right side of your screen, the GoToWebinar bar. Near the bottom, it says questions. Click on the plus sign. It'll open up, and you can type in your question. Now, if you're on a mobile device, it's a little bit more tricky, but not too bad. Android and Apple are different, and even different Android manufacturers are different. So you're either going to have a header, a footer, or a picture frame around your screen. Somewhere on that, you'll see a question mark. Touch the question mark. It'll open up a place for you to ask your question. Now, getting rid of the question pane, that's the tricky part. Some devices you can swipe. Some devices you'll have to find an icon that kind of looks like a flat screen desktop monitor or a flat screen television, and you click that. Now, I've had some people send me emails afterwards saying they got kicked out. So I always like to make let everybody know the same link that you used to join us today. If you happen to get kicked out or log off or you lose power and you want to come back in, the same link will work again. And the same phone number you dialed into, if you did dial in with the same code, will get you right back with us again. So with all that being said, I would like to hand the floor over to Justin. Justin, my friend, please take us away.
Wow, thank you so very much, Brian. I greatly appreciate it. Also, I would like to say welcome to all of you who are joining us today. The staggering number of attendees, and that makes us unbelievably excited. I'm going to be really efficient with your time today. Hopefully, we're going to be able to share some information that you can use inside your various stores and or businesses for you to grow based on the objectives that you've outlined for you and your team. The topic that I'm going to be speaking on today is how to win in a flat market. All of us today are out there reading the headlines that's happening in the automotive space, and it causes a little bit of a rethinking, if you will. Every 9 or 10 years, our industry goes through a transition, and it is critically important that we are prepared for the changes in the marketplace. A lot of people say that the auto business is changing, but that's ING. The auto business has actually changed. It's ED. So what we're going to talk about today is some strategies that are being used right now today in the automotive landscape that's helping dealers win in a flat market. Some of you may feel like this bear sitting on the side. How do you win in a flat market? You're looking at the market overall. You're hearing the headlines that's happening there in the industry, but you're looking for new ways, creative ways. You're trying to keep your knives sharp to ensure that you can stay on the cutting edge of your marketplace so you can continue to grow your businesses as well as your personal goals. The agenda that we have outlined for you today is as follows. We're going to do a very, very quick overview of what's happening in the market. We then are going to review tangible strategies, things that you can actually go about implementing today, even as soon as tomorrow, that are actually being utilized as we speak in the marketplace to attack what's actually happening in the industry. We're going to talk about the power of data. Data is a term that continues to be used very, very widely. But you know what? Data is what data is. There's a lot of it. You got to spend time actually reviewing it. But it's critically important to have data at the table. We firmly believe that information is only powerful when it's shared, and the days of willing your business to success are pretty much long gone. You're going to have to combine elements of data along with your instincts and your experience. In that blend of those three major elements is where you're truly going to find your success. Then we're going to have a little bit of fun, because after you understand what the market actually looks like, strategies that are actually being used and implemented and that are working, that have a foundation of data, you then can have some real targeted fun as it pertains to the marketing that you can send to your various audiences. I'm then going to kind of bring the plane back down to the runway. We'll review very, very quickly some case studies of stores that you may know that use strategies like what we're going to discuss, and then we're going to open up the floor to any questions that you may have. With that being said, we'll now move on into the presentation. So let's quickly take a look at what's happening in the overall market. And this is specific to the auto industry. So in the auto industry, we've all heard the headlines. We're all seeing the headlines and what's happening to the cars and trucks. As many of you know, the car business is actually on the decline, but light trucks and SUVs continues to stay relatively even or to up. And what it really boils down to is a matter of what your perspective is on the market. Because how do you win in a flat market is you got to be able to look at what's really happening in your area. And what we call this is focus on your spot in the river. Never get caught up in the broad headlines that are happening in the industry, because there are more than enough fish right there in the river, right there where you stand for you and your team to be able to execute and go bring in the type of results that you need to go bring in. I think it was Mr. Ford who said obstacles are those things that you see when you take your eyes off of the goal. So what we always like to educate the industry on when we get these opportunities is sincerely focus on your spot in the river, because the salmon are definitely on the run. Now let's talk about strategies that dealers are actually utilizing today, focusing on their spot in the river and the fish that they actually are capturing. The strategy. Every single day, and we're going to continue with this fishing theme here, every single day when you arrive into your store, you're doing what we call fishing. You're fishing. Now, on the fishing side of the house, there is pushing, and then there's pulling. You know, I remember as a kid going to fish with my dad, and there were certain portions of the lake where you literally could look over, and there were some fish right there on the surface. Now, for those of you that are in this thing day to day, what you notice is that there are a lot of fish that are in what we call the pull category. These are fish that literally are already in market. They're typing in the types of terms that you want to be out in front of from a digital perspective. They're doing all the in-market shopping behavior that you want to be in front of. But what many of you all know that are on this call today is that what's happening to front-end grosses. What's happening to front-end grosses today is it literally is a race to the bottom. Like, how low will you go? Now, you got to be active in this space, because these are the fish that have come to the surface to take a breath of air or to take a little snip out of that bait. Now, the types of bait that we educate the industry on using when it comes to those fish that are in the pull category are your Google, Bings, your Facebooks, and the like, and then many of your third parties. You got to be out in this space, but this space is awfully highly competitive because there's other fishermen in that same spot trying to go after these same fish. So it is absolutely critical that you have a strategy that is sound in ensuring that you have the right bait that's in front of these fish that you literally need to pull inside of your boat. But then to make sure that you balance out that boat, there's another portion of the market that we call push. There are consumers today that are not in the market, but we need to push them into the market, because the real secret behind the business today is that you have to take your consumers out of the market before they're ever in the market. And I'll say that again. You have to be thinking, how do I take my consumers out of the market before they're ever in the market? Because when you look at the auto industry today, you really can't name a bad car anymore. You can name cars that you like better than others, but there really isn't a bad car anymore. You also have seen what's happened to brand loyalty, and specifically what's happening to dealer loyalty. Consumers are loyal to a payment. In today's world, consumers are like, listen, if it's $199, I mean, I'll give it a shot. So it is so critical that you are also on the other end of the boat, ensuring that you can push the bigger fish in. Now, the reason why these fish are bigger is because they're deeper, they swim in a different temperature of water, but the grosses here are a lot higher. Now, what you will notice on the screen, we've identified the bait is actually different for those bigger fish that you're looking for to balance out your boat. The bait that these fish actually like is technology. So the technology actually allows you as the fisherman to be able to see where those fish are. I don't know how many of you like wicked tuna. I have seen those fishing shows, but none of them go out to the wide, vast ocean without a fish finder. And many of you today have data that is right at your fingertips. I don't care who you use or who you have. We just strongly encourage you to use the data, because the data goes a long way for helping you identify where those fish actually reside and how far underneath your boat they actually live. The another medium that we've seen work extremely well for those consumers that you want to push into the market is targeted mail or targeted communications. We'll get into this a little bit more specifically as we move forward, but again, don't forget, this is a very, very strong bait, specifically when you are getting hyper-personalized and you're communicating one-to-one at a VIN level. Targeted mail is a very, very effective medium. One of the baits that we continue to see bring in big fish is a mindset or philosophy or a program around creating your service drive into a sales lane. As the cars in the industry today continue to get older, I think we're around 11.9 today in the latest report that I saw. It is so critically important that you have technology or tools that can identify consumers that are right now today coming in through your service drive. They may be in an equity position to get into a newer car for a similar or a lower monthly payment, and we got to be out in front of them. Now, the reason why these fish are so big is because they don't even know they're in the market yet. Also, specifically, when they come in through the service drive, they haven't sent leads all over town saying how low can you go. They merely are being greeted in a very professional manner about upgrading into a newer car for a similar or a lower monthly payment. So please, for those of you that have active service departments with a number of customer pay ROs that are going through there on a daily basis, please ensure that you and your teams are sitting down and discussing how do you convert that service drive into a sales lane. The other thing, too, is the online consumer experience. We've seen the online consumer experience evolve rapidly and wildly in the last 10 years. The interesting thing about it today is that there's so many retailers today that have gotten so personalized with shopping, i.e. Amazon, i.e. all the major retailers, that when you go to their sites, they know who you are. And they actually speak to you in a manner that is highly relevant because the relevancy that they promote or they put out in front of you is based on your shopping behavior. One of the things that we're seeing really take by storm in the auto space is dealers utilizing these private shopping portals. Many stores have consumers that have shopped there 1 time, 5 times, 10 times, or have even shopped there for a lifetime. But when they actually go to your site, you literally bring them to the homepage of your site as if they've never done business with you. And what consumers are beginning to demand today, specifically in the retail space, and we're seeing it take over wildly in the auto space, is giving them a private shopping portal that allows them to be able to engage with your store in a personal manner. This puts you in a position to be able to communicate to them one-to-one. You can give them specific incentives based on their shopping behavior, and the conversion into new sales as well as additional service ROs has been absolutely staggering. And then there's other tools that are coming to the market that I'll tease you guys with here towards the end, is this sort of on inside of the showroom sort of experience with something that we call the Apollo Launchpad. So from a visual perspective, hopefully you guys kind of understand what you are doing every single day with you and your teams. There's a good portion of your business where you're pulling consumers into the market, but then there's another portion of the business where you're actually pushing them into the market. Now, as it pertains to the individual or the specific mediums that we actually categorize in the push and the pull category, I'm just going to take you maybe down 10 more feet beneath the water level. So when you look at the push mediums, those are targeted to consumers who are not yet in the market, but they do need a little help actually educating them on the relevant offers that are available to them based on the position that they're in within their vehicles. Now, we know that many of you are engaged in all of these mediums, but what's also really, really important, specifically as the market begins to flatten out, it is time to hold everyone accountable. There is no shortage of people that are walking in your doors trying to get a meeting with you to try to sell their one-off thing. But it's so important to sit them down, push back from the table about 6 or 8 feet, and talk about the entire puzzle piece. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to run your entity. You're trying to get an overall number. And it's these bits and pieces that really have to come together in a very cohesive manner in order for you to be successful. So it's really, really powerful and impactful when you can sit down your various vendors and actually talk them through the strategy and how their piece actually contributes to the overall wheel. Because when you look at this wheel and you look at the marketing mediums that you invest in on a monthly basis, each one of those mediums is a spoke. But every spoke in the wheel matters. If one spoke breaks or is not working, all of a sudden that wheel is going to start to shake a little bit. And we all have driven cars with that alignment, and we know how that oftentimes ends up. So it's so critically important, because these are real dollars that you're spending all the way across this wheel. It's so important to make sure that your vendors are working well together and that they're working on a cohesive strategy and plan as it pertains to your store or stores. And then there's the pull mediums. Again, those pull mediums are those people that are low. I mean, they're deep in the funnel. They are at what we call that zero moment of truth. And I don't know how many of you guys have looked into the digital landscape lately, but it literally is like fighting in a phone booth, but with a razor blade. You have to make sure that you have a very, very targeted strategy that is highly, highly aggressive to ensure that you're out in front of those consumers that are expressing the in-market shopping behavior that you want. And what you really find at the end of the day is it's that blended strategy of the pushing and the pulling, because you won't be doing them all in any sort of, in any sort of dominance, but it is a balanced approach that you're going to have with a blended strategy in order for you to get the best results, because that's what we're seeing in the market. Now let's talk about data. And I promise that I won't geek out on you all, but I would like to ground you guys in the importance of data. What's a known fact is that there's no one on this call today that doesn't have access to data. But the real question you have to ask yourself, am I effectively using it? Again, the days of coming to the showroom today and just willing your way to success, that's really, really tough today. Oftentimes, you're trying to resolve for things that your store has already solved for, and there's data right underneath your nose that gives you those indications. One of the things that allows me to really, that allowed me to really fall in love with data, because I'm a very passionate person. I've only done the car business my entire life. My father and my brother was in the car business, and I grew up around a lot of men that willed themselves to success. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to work a little bit smarter. And when I found data, it was like a brave new world opened up. The data is so important because it actually separates facts from feelings. A lot of people that work for you, a lot of people who come in and try to meet with you, everyone's walking in with what their feeling is, what they think we should do. But let's look at the data. The data goes a long way for allowing us to, if there's one thing to take a pitching wedge and try to make it go 200 yards, there's another thing to take a putter and just putt it right in. And the data normally puts us a putter away from getting it into the hole. So now let's talk about the data and the power and how that's currently being used today in the automotive space. Now, when the first thing you want to do with data is where. You want to ask yourself, where are my dollars being spent? Where should my dollars be spent? And where am I going to get the highest return of investment on those dollars? Here on the screen is just an image of a sample set of some data, and I know many of you have various tools that you may use, but it is so critically important to identify what is the perfect market for me to go after. Many of your OEMs provide you with an area of responsibility, a performance market area, etc. But it is so critically important to look inside of your DMS, to look inside of your CRMs and identify down to the zip code level, where do I sell the most cars and where do I service them? Once you identify where it is most optimal for you to be spending your dollars, that's where you actually want to point all of your marketing efforts. We literally draw a ring around it. I remember growing up as a kid, my brother always said, baby, let's not get beat up in our own backyard. And it is so easy to spend ego dollars in markets, but at the end of the day, when those dollars don't actually turn into 3 or 5 or 10 coming back in the door, we call those ego dollars. It is so critically important that you can use whatever data provider that you have, encourage them, mandate, and demand them to educate you on where is the best place for you to be spending your marketing dollars based on your previous performance. And again, ensure that they can break that down for you on a zip code level. The other thing too, as it pertains to the zip codes, because the only thing I've ever done is the car business, there's a high tendency to do what I call overcorrect. I remember the first time my dad taught me how to drive in snow. The first mistake that I made is I overcorrected the minute I felt the slide or the minute I felt the spin. The same thing is true inside of your store. Make sure that you don't do what we call overcorrect. So when you can look at your business down to a zip code level and you can see what your growth has been year over year, it then puts you in an unbelievable position to be able to manage your business. By managing your business, it identifies what areas are you up, what areas are you even, and what areas are you down? And based on the answer to those 3 questions, it will dictate what strategies are needed. Many times when the market goes flat or it's even or it's, just slightly up, everyone says, oh, we're not feeling it. And the minute people start saying they're not feeling it, vendors get fired, budgets get slashed, and all of a sudden you could be slashing an area that you definitely need to stay in. But until you understand what your marketplace looks like down at a zip code level, you could have a tendency of overcorrecting. The example that's on the screen here is of a store in Texas, and the blue areas on the right, the greater the intensity of blue, the higher the density of the sales, and then, at the lighter, you can follow that trend. But when you look to the right, you can see where this store is actually up and where the store is down. So I don't know if you can see on the screen, but I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one down is Keller, Texas. So that zip code is 76248. This store is down 11 units or 5.9%. That means that we used to get almost 6% more sales from that area than we do today. So how does that make sense, or how does that translate into an actionable item inside the store? Guess what happens inside this store when a customer walks in and we find out that they're from 76248? And let's say that we're $500 away on a trade. I'm not going to let the used car manager dictate that sale. The used car guy is going to say, well, I'm not giving them another $500 on that piece of junk. But we got to say, listen, this is not about $500 worth of piece of junk. This is about penetrating an area that we once used to penetrate at 6% higher than we do today. So let's get this deal. It is worth that investment for you to have your license plate bracket back into that zip code of 76248. That's just one small example. The same thing is true if you find out that you're up significantly in an area. The key to this market, and many of you know this because you live it every single day, you want to stay dominant in areas where you are dominant, because there is no shortage of competition. There are stores that used to be 5 and 6 spots behind you that are now maybe 2 or 3, because everyone's getting smarter. Everyone is utilizing data to sort of fast forward them, if you will. So again, make sure that you're breaking down your zip code data, or you're having your providers break down your performance at a zip code level. Some of you may be asking, well, what are those C's next to the zone and those zip codes? Those C's stand for conquest. Now, let's be cautious here. Conquest for our education, how we educate the market, is we like to go after same brand conquest first. As you know, certain consumers that, after the guy's in his 3rd or 4th Camry, putting a guy into his first Accord after he's been in 3 or 4 Camrys, that's pretty tough. But what the technology actually does today is it said, hey, if this is a zip code that we are dominant in, anyone that's driving my same brand but haven't done business with my store, I want to make sure that I'm out in front of them. So that's what those C's stand for on the conquest side. But again, ensure that you're looking at your data down to a zip code level. The other thing, too, is you got to verify ownership. Many of you on the call today are in management positions or either ownership positions of your stores, and even yourselves, you end up getting communications on cars you haven't owned in multiple years. It's amazing what happens in our space when you communicate relevant offers to people who still own the vehicle that you're trying to communicate to them for. I can't tell you how many times in my house I get communications on extend your warranty, service specials, coupons coming out of the ears. And I'm saying, you know what, this would be great if I still own that car. So make sure that your data provider is going through your information, specifically with as much as people are actually moving throughout the U.S., and will continue to do so as these new emerging areas continue to pop up. It is so important to make sure that you stay out in front of those consumers and the vehicles that they actually own. Again, taking that down a little bit further, all data is not good data. So when you look at your DMSs, you look at your CRMs, I mean, it's so funny. I'm in showrooms so often, and that it just boggles my mind at how many inquiries or how many entries you have on one customer. It'll be Justin Byrd, Justin.Byrd, Justin, Byrd, and at the end of the day, you don't know which one of those entries is actually the right one, so there's a propensity to market to all, hoping that something sticks. Whoever your data provider is, hold them accountable, because the information that they have is actually so powerful, but it is up to you to ensure that they can make sure that it is transactional for you, and that they can show you down to a record level how many people are actually active with my store. For us, what we oftentimes communicate to the industry is that you need to look at your customers in 3 very distinct slices. Those slices are, number 1, how many of my customers in my database are active with me? Now, our definition of active may be different than yours, so kind of take this with a grain of salt. But our definition is any consumer that's in your database where financial commerce has changed from their hands to yours for sales or service in 0 to 12 months. That means that they're active. So whoever your provider is, you got to say your job is to help me keep these people active. All right? Number 2 is how many people are lost? How many people are in my database that used to do business with me but haven't done business with me in greater than a year? Those people we got to bring back. And then there's another slice, which is slice number 3. How many people are driving my brand, living in my market, but they've never done business with me? And this allows you, because you're paying out the funds, this allows you to hold everyone accountable. Because don't let a provider of yours come in and take credit for customers that you would have gotten anyway. You want to give them credit for consumers that they were able to help you bring back, or consumers that they were able to help you bring in. And again, the data goes a long way for helping you do that. Again, information is only powerful when it's shared. There are some technology tools out there today that will actually go inside of your database and actually reveal to you the actual consumers that are in your database that no longer drive the car that you think they own. Now, I've actually seen dealers fall out of their chair when they see this, because some dealers saying, man, I don't want to even know how dirty my information is. Let me just let sleeping dogs lie. But I'm telling you, you gotta, the devil is definitely in the details. Here's an example here on screen where a dealer has the catbird seat of being able to see inside of their database how many consumers are in their database that no longer drive the car that their database says that they drive. And again, this becomes so unbelievably powerful because it allows your marketing to be highly accurate to consumers that actually still own and drive those vehicles that are in your database. Now, let's have a little fun in marketing. Here, if this was a two-way call, I probably would take a little pause here and breathe, but to be efficient with everyone's time today, we're going to continue to move forward. But as a little halfway point, if you will, we've now kind of looked at the industry and what's really happening there. We quickly walked through strategies of pushing and pulling that stores are using today to be unbelievably successful. And now we just kind of came out of this segment called data, which is how does the data actually help support and drive the strategy? Now, once you kind of have that foundational base, like they say, if you build a house on a rock, it'll stand for a long time. We now can go about building a house on top of that very, very strong foundation. The house that we're going to now show you, quickly walk you through, is now some of the marketing that has the ability to be produced when you have the power of that data utilizing the strategy that we just walked through. All right, so back to our pushing and pulling. You remember the mediums that we discussed earlier about on the push mediums. Now let's look at what some of those mediums actually end up looking like after you're grounded in the data and after you have that strategy that we just showcased. So on the push side of the house, now you have the ability to have integrated marketing. And if you remember what I talked about before, when you have 10, 12, 14, 16 different vendors, it is so unbelievably difficult to get them to all speak off the same song sheet. It's amazing. One of the challenges that we deal in our space is this thing called trust. Consumers just don't trust us, and we're sitting there scratching our heads saying, well, I can't understand why. Well, the why boils down to you got one price online, you got another price in the paper, you got another one in the radio, you got one in the TV spot, and the email has another price. And we're just trying to see, well, let me just see which one works. But to a consumer, imagine how convoluted that comes across. Imagine you shopping for something on Nordstrom's or Amazon, and everywhere you look, there's a different price. You actually would keep searching until you find one low to see how low can you go. But now when you have the power of having a blended strategy of pushing and pulling, it now allows
Justin?
This session is being recorded for audio issue reporting.
Brian, do you hear that?
Yeah, you're back with us now. I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah,
must have just been a little hiccup on the go to webinar.
Okay.
I can hear you fine. I'd say just continue.
Okay, good deal. All right, so now you have the ability to send out consistent integrated marketing across all of your mediums, whether they be push or whether they be pull. Again, here's just another example of the email. And one of the things that we have seen work unbelievably well in the auto space is sending out these clean, crisp, factory-esque, I'm not going to say factory message, but factory-esque messages that makes it highly relevant to the consumer that we're going after. The other thing as it pertains to once you identify that the consumer still owns that car, data allows you to create hyper personalized offers. Now, let me just give you a very, very small clip of this. One of the things that
audio issue recording has finished.
All right. Are you still with us, Justin? Justin?
Yeah, can you hear that?
Yeah, it said audio recording has finished.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened there, but we're back again. So hopefully she won't interrupt us again. Sorry about that, everybody. We're having just some type of a strange technical issue, but Justin sounds great now. Let's continue.
All right, we're back. One of the things that we educate our dealers on and that we execute for our clients is something called Upgrade Matrix. And basically what we do is we utilize data that is inside of your system. And that's another thing, too, that I'm going to educate you on to encourage you to get closer to the data. Your data will tell you the types of vehicles that people are coming out of and the types of vehicles that they're getting into. And then that allows you to send really hyper-personalized and relevant offers to that consumer based on what they're driving. I've seen examples of dealers communicating to Toyota Tundra owners a Prius hybrid because that's the special of the month. But to that Toyota Tundra guy or consumer, that's basically anti-marketing. So it's so critical for you to get inside of your data to look at the types of vehicles that people are coming out of and the types of vehicles that they're getting into, and then we use that to be the forefront of our marketing communications for new consumers that we actually are trying to catch. Another example is if you ever want to improve the sales at your store, and I know that all of you do because all of you have an insatiable appetite to win and you always want 5 or 10 more. Well, one of the ways that you can go about doing that is go look at your trade lot. And I've seen people with the longest faces say, what, are you crazy, the trade lot? I'm waiting on the wholesale guy to come pick those up. But no, it is so important to see, to feel, to touch, and to smell the types of cars that people are coming out of, the model years in which they are, the mileage that are on them. Because if those are the fish that you've already caught, guess what? We want to go fishing for more of those. And again, the power of the data that's right underneath your nose to ensure that we can transact and convert. And then, as I mentioned to you all before, one of the best push strategies on this planet is something called sales in the service drive. Sales in the service drive is a commitment. I've heard dealers say it's a people issue, it's a timing issue. I'm telling you. If there is any goal in them there hills, it is definitely in the service lane. These consumers are active with your store. The types of numbers that you can put on these cars because you know the history of them, because they've allowed you to service them, puts you in an advantageous position over any other of your competitors in the marketplace. It allows you to engage with the consumer, to educate them on their options of upgrading their car. Some of them take advantage of it, some of them don't, but again, the data goes a long way for helping you identify which consumers are coming to your service drive, what position they are in those cars, and it helps you and your staff be in a position to engage them professionally, to educate them on their options, and we've seen the conversions absolutely go through the roof. And now what you begin to see is, going back to this fishing analogy, because the different poles have different baits, they each are going to capture different fish. But the collective sum of all those fish that we're going to catch by having those numbers of baits in the boat is where you're going to find your success. And then there's new technology that's coming to the marketplace from a POS perspective inside of the showroom, being to educate consumers in a very open and transparent way, even down to allowing them to desk their own deals. And now some dealers are actually even engaging in basically selling cars beyond the four walls of their showrooms. That's also beginning to take over in the marketplace. Now let's talk about the pull mediums, which has definitely been one of the rapid things that have expanded in the industry, specifically in the last 5 to 7 years, and that's the digital landscape. Again, as we mentioned before, these are the fish that are smaller, they're closer to the surface, but there's a lot of fishermen going after these. So when it comes down to the digital landscape, here's a couple of areas that you want to kind of either write down, or maybe Brian will send his presentation out at the conclusion, but you want to make sure that your partners, your vendor partners, are being held accountable for driving you the types of results that you need and require to see for your store. There's a couple of, I call this the top 10. So when it comes to the top 10 yes or no digital checklists, these are the things that you want to ensure that your providers are actually executing on your behalf. One, you just want to simply ask them the yes or no. Are my ads using the new Google expanded text ad format? And I'm going to give you an example of that here in a bit. But this is literally a yes or no question that you can provide to them. Are the ads that you're serving up for my dealership, you have ads for your dealership name? Do you have the year, make, model ads for all new models that you offer? One of the biggest hurdles that I've seen are agency partners who are hunting you guys down on a weekly basis looking for the offers. But again, that's only the core 4. You sell many more than that, and specifically at the trim level. On the digital space, you need to make sure you have one for every year, make, model that's in your inventory. Also, does the ad copy contain relevant information? What's so critical when you look in the digital space today, and you guys experience this on the personal side when you're shopping for things, when you look for something and that what you search for doesn't come up or is not relevant information, you're gone. Same thing happens on the lower of the funnel automotive prospects. We have to have relevant information in it. The models that you offer, the payments, the features, the expiration dates. We're trying to transact here. I've seen dealers who spend a lot of money in digital, and the ad copy literally says, many in stock, plenty to choose from, lots of cargo area, come by now. Are you kidding me? We want to be out in front of them with the payment. We want to be out in front of them with the various model that they search for, key features on that model, click the call to action, and then the site extensions. Also, you want to make sure that your ads contain the current OEM promotions and incentives. You want to combine how aggressively you're going to price your cars to move from at retail, along with the incentives that are offered at the OEM level to give you in your store the best advertised offer or price out there in the marketplace. You also, regardless of the market, because one of the things that we're seeing is that there used to be feast or famine as it pertained to lease. But now in most markets today, consumers are being highly educated on the options that are available to them on lease. They clearly understand the finance, so your ad should definitely offer them a finance option as well as a lease option and let them make the choice, or when they do the click to call, your consultants could then walk them down the best option that's available for that customer. Also, you want to make sure that you have ads for all of your current pre-owned inventory. You all have seen what's happening to the pre-owned market today. It is highly competitive. But it is important to make sure that that unique one-off model that you have in your pre-owned inventory, that it has relevant ad space or budget assigned to it, so when someone does search for that unicorn, that you can ensure that your bait's at the top of the surface for that fish to bite. Also, you want to make sure that your ads have the prominent services that you offer, and that's probably standard. But you want to make sure that you are perfect in the executions of the basic blocking and tackling. And then also you want to make sure that your mobile ads appearing in one or two. One of the things that's really important with the change of the size of these mobile devices is the position that puts you in when you get into the digital landscape when you are searching. You don't want to be below that fold. And then the same thing is true on the desktop. So here's just a down and dirty top 10 that you can utilize with your vendors or your vendor partner to ensure that you're holding them accountable to drive the results that you like to see. Another thing, too, that is so critically important as it pertains to the digital strategy is once you're inside of the data, utilize that same data to drive your digital strategy. Because when you see that you're selling cars in a certain zip code, wouldn't you want to be more aggressive even digitally in that zip code? But it's amazing how sometimes dealers will actually look at those two as mutually exclusive. Every single time that you're meeting with your vendor partners, make sure that the data that you're using on the sales side of the house is also transcending on the digital side of the house to make sure that down to a zip code level that you're being highly, highly aggressive in those geographies where you're dominant from both sales and for service. Also, you want to make sure that your data in your inventory is being uploaded nightly to Google, being the Facebook. They never sleep. They're always on 24/7. So regardless if someone's up in the wee hours of the morning or an insomniac, you want to make sure that you're being aggressive in that market on the digital landscape. Also, you want to ensure that there's there's payment-based ads on every new and used make, model, and trim, which we addressed earlier, but here's a visual example of that. And then also, you want to give consumers a very friendly and engaging and fast conversion option to get onto your site. Here's an example of what we would educate and we consider a highly, highly relevant ad. So the headline reflects the search item that they actually look for. Again, you see that lease payment, a link to their private shopping portal, lease and finance options, an expiration date on digital, how many are left in stock, key features about that model, and clearly the site extensions to either call you or to find you via the address or the map link option. Again, look at how relevant all this information is across the site extensions. You don't see come in now, many in stock, many to choose from. We're down to the specifics. And the reason why this is so important is because these fish have come to the surface to eat, and once they get there, you got to feed them if you want to get them into the boat. The other thing, too, that I will tell all of you that is so critically important is that speed used to be an option. Today, speed is an absolute necessity. There's a great option that is offered to everyone by Google. It's called Test My Site with Google. It is listed here on the page. You can go to any search bar and type in Test My Site with Google. Type in your URL, and it will very, very quickly spit out for you an analysis of the mobile friendliness of your site, the mobile speed of your site, and then the speed of your site on desktop. This is so important because today Google actually gives you preferential treatment from a placement perspective based on the relevancy of your ad. But now what they're starting to add in there is now speed. It used to be all about the money. Then it went from money to relevant. Now it's gone from money, relevant, down to speed. So it's now critically important to ensure that not only are you serving up relevant content and information based on what the person typed into Google, but that it comes up fast, because even you yourselves realize what you do when your information that you're looking for doesn't come up in a timely fashion. I will also tell you that these private shopping portals are some of the fastest and friendliest in the industry, which makes them very, very high on conversion. And again, we're seeing this take the automotive industry by storm. The other thing, too, is ensuring that the offers that you have across all of your mediums are consistent and they're uploaded on a nightly basis. Another thing, too, that we're seeing take the industry by storm is dealers getting away from the typical $199, $299, or $399. We actually are seeing payments like $301.91. The sentiment to consumers is that, wow, that's a real offer. And it actually allows you, once you have the data, it allows you to combine how you aggressively price your cars with how the OEM prices their cars, and allows you to be out in the market with a highly, highly relevant ad with the best possible advertised offer across multiple mediums. Now, the next piece really boils down to execution, ladies and gentlemen. To drive all of that activity, whether it be for sales and or service, and for you not to utilize the tools that are maybe in your store, if you don't have them, you need to get one, of managing these opportunities. The days of salespeople sitting around, smoking cigarettes, waiting on the up bus, those days are long gone. What is now on the forefront of the horizon that we're seeing take the industry by storm are being able to manage these opportunities based on the level of engagement of these consumers. As you know, all leads are not created equal. Many stores are saying to themselves, where have my leads gone? And there's two major things that are happening. One thing that is happening is the stores that are actually monitoring their opportunity dashboard, or whatever tool that you have inside of your store, that are actually in there working it, based on the actionable items that these consumers have taken, are seeing the highest conversion. The second thing that we're seeing, and I want all of you to pay really close attention to this, is what is happening to the phones inside of your stores. Today, with the digital landscape being as aggressive as it is, people are literally hitting click to call. But what we have found is, after analyzing over 4 million calls, 56% of the phone calls that go to a dealership are never answered. If you want to take your store to the next level, you should turn your showroom into an Olympic track event. When that phone rings, people need to be jumping over desks, sliding underneath the chairs to get to that phone, because those consumers are in-market consumers that have hit click to call. Now, some of those may be service, but let's engage them there, and many of those are also going to be for sales. Another important thing is to look at how your phone trees are set up. I can't tell you how many times I've seen sales calls be misrouted to service, only for the service people to not know, can't help the people, and the people are gone, and that's who your competition ends up putting in a car. So make sure that you're monitoring the opportunities that are coming into your various systems, as well as that you're looking at the phones. Because I mean, today to see a showroom up is like the clouds parted. But those showroom ups today have converted, and a lot of those are actually on your phones right now as we speak. Next up is, again, looking at the consumer activity as well as the equity position inside of each consumer. There's a variety of different equity tools that are out there. Many of you, it probably runs the gamut. But it is so critically important for your vendor to be able to provide for you what marketing did the consumer actually engage in, what was the activity that they took, what is the equity position in that vehicle, therefore, what is our best way of engaging and converting these consumers. And again, if you're not inside of your systems looking at the activity as well as the equity position, you're leaving units on the table. Now, I'm just going to quickly highlight for you just some stores across the country that are utilizing strategies very similar ones that I kind of walked through here today, and this will be a quick click, and then we will jump to see if anyone has any questions. So some stores that are across the country and various franchises in various parts of the country. You have your Huggins Hondas of the world, you have your Rich Bloomfield Honda. This one happens to be Honda Pacific. But again, utilizing a blended strategy of pushing as well as pulling are the stores that we're seeing by far have the best success. And the one way that you can ensure that you are dominating or that you're continuing to rise in a flat market is to focus on your spot inside of the river, ensuring that all the service providers that get the luxury of serving you, they're doing just that they're serving you. You're holding them accountable. You're utilizing the data to ensure that it it permeates across every single strategy and marketing medium that you have to ensure that you and your teams are going to the next level. I sincerely want to thank you all for your time and joining us here today. Hopefully you found this to be of value and there's some takeaways that you can actually implement and execute inside of your stores to help you guys reach the next level. With that, Brian, I'll turn it back over to you to see if there's any questions that anyone would like to ask.
Okay. Well, Justin, that was a great presentation. Thank you for taking the time to share that with us. And everybody, please type in your questions right now. Are you sending the slides? Actually, Rachel, we record these webinars, and so if there's someone you'd like to share this with, we can share the recording. Justin, someone asked if we would share the slides. Do you want to share the slides or the recording? Is that all right?
We're willing to share both. If they got it. So we can send out an email, or you can send it from your system, Brian. But we will send out the recording as well as you'll have access to the slides.
Okay, perfect. And then, so please type in any other questions that you have. I do have a few that came in during the presentation. Justin, how do you measure relevance on an ad?
Can you repeat that, Brian?
How do you measure relevance on an ad? And that came up when you were showing the example of an ad. It was about 10 slides ago. It was a search engine ad. It came up as an ad from a search engine. It had like the make, the model, the year, the payment, all that stuff.
Yep. Where we actually measure the relevance is on the conversion. Because what we see are the ads that are online that get the highest click-through have the most meat inside of the ad. The ads that say mini in stock, call us now, swing by, large cargo area, we don't find that those convert very well, and there's not a high click-through rate on there. But the ones that we have seen have the highest click-through rate are those ads an example that we just showed is relevant content to the consumer based on what they typed in. Many times consumers are typing in, a lease on a Honda Accord. And I don't want to just say mini in stock. I want to say lease one for $189. I got 30 of them in stock. This expires at the end of the month. Come get it. Actionable items that the consumer can engage in is how we measure relevance. Also, another element there is Google actually comes in and tells us. They literally say, here are the click-through rates on your various campaigns, and this is the ad copy that you have. We're very fortunate that we have a high percentage of a click-through rate, and we've seen that the relevancy in the ad based on actionable items that was based on what the consumer typed in is where we find the highest conversion.
All right. Actually, we got a comment here before the next question. It says, Justin, Bill Snowfer sends his regards. We're looking forward to working with you and seeing what you can do for us. Thank you for commenting, Colin.
Oh, that's great. Thank you guys so very much, and thank you for the opportunity to serve you all.
Great. Well, here's another question that we got come in. Justin, are you suggesting giving salespeople access to a dashboard? If not, how do you assign each opportunity?
Okay. So we definitely suggest that you give a subset of your crew access to the dashboard. It does vary by store. But if I could just speak from the heart here, what we found the breakthrough to really be with dashboards are those salespeople that, I don't know, they're the 6 to 8 car a month person, but in your belly, you know they're a 12 to 15 a car a month person. They just never seen the breakthrough. They're too nice for you to ever fire them, and next thing you know, 10 years later, they're just sitting there. We strongly encourage to kind of break the ice with those is to give them access to an opportunity dashboard. Where we firmly see the real conversion, where we see the breakthrough happen with the opportunity dashboard, is the dashboard allows you to practice before you play. The dashboard is going to tell you all of the information, all the marketing that the consumer actually engaged in. What if they actually bought the car from you, it'll tell you the position that they're in the car. It'll tell you when they were on the site, what they looked at, what stock number. So now as a manager, you literally can sit down with that newbie or that person that you're trying to have a breakthrough with, and you literally can role play the conversation with that consumer well before it ever happens. One of the biggest challenges that we have is that in showrooms all across the country, we literally have people swinging for home runs that don't even know how to play baseball yet. So opportunity dashboards really open up salespeople's eyes. What we also have seen too is that the opportunity dashboard also lends itself to these new millennials that are starting to come into our business who don't know it instinctively, but they do understand technology, they do understand data, and some of them are actually really good with people. So we do suggest that you give this access to certain salespeople, but it has to have management oversight because you just can't let the wolves free inside the hen house. You got to have some running rules as it pertains to how you want to manage that inside of your store. But we do strongly encourage that they have access specifically to work their customer base inside the opportunity dashboard.
All right. Well, Justin, it looks like that's our last question. That was a very complete answer. This is Brian with AutoSuccess, everybody. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to join us today for this webinar, and I'd really like to thank Justin for sharing all this great information. If there's someone else in your dealership that you feel would benefit from seeing this webinar, you'll all get an email from me thanking you for attending, and you can respond to that, and I can send you a link to watch the webinar and share it with others. Also, if you would like to see the slide deck, just send an email. What I'll do is I'll forward all those emails to Justin. That way you can initiate a dialogue with him, and he can reply with the information that you'd like to see. If there's any questions that you come up with afterwards, you can reply in that fashion, or Justin, if you'd like to maybe share your email address with everybody.
Yes, so with that being said, let's go fishing. I thank you all so very much for your time and your attendance today. On the screen is my direct email address. Because we're all in the same industry, we all are aiming after the same things, which is providing for our families, but also to get to these consumers inside of some of the great products that we have the great luxury of selling. We're all in it together. Any information that we can provide that helps you, the more the merrier for us. So just please don't hesitate to reach out. And Brian, thank you so very much for this great opportunity in this format.
Thank you, Justin. I hope to have you back again soon. Everybody have a great afternoon, and join us again for a future AutoSuccess webinar.